Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Wonderful, great. I heard those things. My name is Judy Rowe, and I'm going to be doing a session managing from the middle while black, leading from the middle while black. The struggle is real. And so I hope that all of you will be willing to share your stories. I'm going to be sharing mine. But first, I want to just introduce two people that you'll see roaming around. Randy's in the back recording me, so hello, Randy. And then I have a wonderful human, awesome person clicking for me today. The clicker doesn't work up here for some reason. Tony, wave to everybody, because I'm going to be, if you hear me say, next Tony, Tony, nod. Then he's going to be doing that for me today. So I appreciate you, Tony. Thank you, both you and Randy, for being here. So the first thing we're going to do, though, is to also acknowledge and show gratitude for the sponsor of this session. It's sponsored by Cadillac GM. And so Tony's going to advance to the next slide, and he's going to show us a video. And it's kind of perfect because I own that car. Just like this. All right, so here we go. Be iconic, raise the bar. I heard those two things. My name is Judith Rowe, and my business, I'm the principal of my business. It's Judith A. Rowe Consulting, LLC. How original is that? And you can call me Judy as well. My website is juditharowe.com. Please go there. Also connect with me on LinkedIn, especially if you want any of these slides or information that I have here. I'm happy to share it with you. I do coaching, all kinds of coaching, executive, teenagers, my own kids if they listen to me. I do training, which is what I'm doing today, and I also facilitate things like doing team building. I do facilitation for strategic planning, all those things. So go ahead, next slide. I wanted to talk to you about my history. You see that? You see that? Yeah. That's me, circa 1987. All right? So I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something about this photo, because I didn't even remember taking it. Now when I see it, I remembered it. But I was trying to do, so this is the second time I'm working with ELC, which I was delighted to do because I normally do not speak with black people, a room full of black people, great people like you. So this was exciting to me. And they said, would you like, they sent out a calling, would you like to be part of the mid-level manager symposium? I'm like, yes. And so they said, you have to make a pitch. It's like, I've never pitched before in my life. People just say, yeah, Judy, you want to do this? And I do it. Well, this time I had to make a pitch. And I was really concerned about it because I said, they want to reimagine the classics. They want to talk about that. I said, I want to talk about black greatness because it's in all of us. And so when I did that, I made that decision. I talked to my brother, who's in journalism. Of course, he had all these things. By the way, I'm a walker and a talker. So you're going to see me go up and down and around. And, but Randy said, don't go past the mic. So if you see me going toward that, you're like, Judy, stop. I talked to my brother and I said, I'm really not struggling, but I really want to get this pitch right. So I want to do this talk. So in the meantime, he and I kind of sketched out some things. I said, I want to talk about greatness. I want to talk about, surviving, not surviving, but thriving. And I think for all of you who, did you see Dr. Youssef last night? They talked about, Candace and Candace talked about not just surviving, but thriving as black people. So interestingly enough, I think God works in mysterious ways. I opened my email the night before as I was working on it. It was late one night, and I got this email from somebody I didn't know with that picture. Seriously. And the woman said, I thought you'd be interested in seeing this. This was used by one of your mentors to talk about inclusion. I'm like, that's the message. What do you see there? What do you think about? What comes to your mind when you look at my picture in 1987? And by the way, these were, token, thanks. These are, the bottom row is the engineer trainees, and the top row are the teachers for this program. That was a Mobil Oil. I worked for Mobil Oil before it became ExxonMobil in '87. I have a civil engineering degree, industrial engineering degree, and at the age of 40, I went back to school, sponsored by Corning, who I worked for 27 years in corporate America. I went back to school at age 40 to get my master's in labor relations from Cornell University. That's what I did. But that was me then. And I was smiling. Do you see me? So proud. Yeah, proud. But I was token, if you will. I was probably one of the first female engineers hired into that program, black female engineers, and I was married at the time. Nobody else was married then. The other white guys were not married. So it was a whole different thing I had to navigate, layer upon layer upon layer of intersectionality that we all know exists even then and especially now. Okay? What other things come to your mind?
It's like double
Yes,
for me.
please.
It's like I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud you're there, you're in that room, but then it feels heavy when I see that picture. I'm like, wow, what did she have to go through on the day to day? You know, and then all of the engineering stuff makes it reminiscent of like, you know, the whole NASA story and everything too. It's just like, it's heavy.
It's heavy, yes. You?
For me, I see a trailblazer. I see a trendsetter. I see somebody who has gone through a lot to get there. Because I'm also from a science background. So for me, it's like exhilarating. Just seeing you, there's like, for me, that's history.
Thank you.
And I connect with that.
I appreciate that. Yes, one more. Two more. Okay.
For me, given that you said that you were at Mobil, which is now ExxonMobil, and I know that BP is a big sponsor.
Yes.
It's like to see how many people, black people from BP, from that same industry, it's like, and to see you there all alone, it's one of those things where it's like full circle. But
Yeah.
also, I hope you know you've helped that.
Ooh, that made me cry because I get emotional when I look at that because then I was like, do you see the uniform? I had to put that on every day. The mask, the uniform, all those things to get through school, to get here. And then I had to realize, to your point that you said earlier, oh, I said one more comment. Here, sir, sorry.
I see a sense of confidence and belonging.
Yes. Even though I felt almost like this unicorn in this situation, thank you so much for mentioning all those things for all of you who said something. But I want Tony to go to the next slide because you mentioned the legacy, the history that I stood upon. And I had to then recognize that picture. I would not be there if it had not been for these wonderful black STEM leaders, men and women, that trailblazed for me. And one of those people was Mary Jackson. I love, love, love Hidden Figures. I've watched it multiple times. And she was a NASA engineer, and that gratitude is supposed to be with the E together. But I have humility, I have great gratitude, and I garner strength from that history of greatness. And I want to talk about that because it's all in all of us, no matter what your field. We all stand on the shoulders of legacy. And so anybody wants to comment, feel free. But I want to go to the next slide because this is her quote, because she acknowledges that she didn't get there alone, but she also needed help from other people that were not inside of her circle. So this is to the judge, of course, white. If you watched Hidden Figures, she had to appeal to go to this school. And her quote said, I plan on being an engineer at NASA. She declared that, right? But I can't do that without taking them classes at that all-white high school. And I can't change the color of my skin. I certainly couldn't. Nowhere to hide. So I have no choice but to be the first, which I cannot do without you, sir. That's the quote she made, and it was so powerful to me. So I want to talk, with that in mind, that history that I stood upon, I want to talk about greatness. Because greatness is in all of us. In the condition of greatness, the noun is the quality or state of being great, as in size, skill, achievement, or power. Doesn't matter how much or how little, you all have this in you. And actually, if you went to the talk last night with Dr. Youssef, he was going to use I said, you use my line. I was going to totally talk to all of you about how important it is to realize that you already are great because you are here. If you think about how you got here, just saying, your mom got with your dad, you outswam every single other sperm. I don't want to be too crude, but it's real. You outswam them, you won the first race, you are here. That alone is like, yes, everything else is gravy to a certain respect. So we all have greatness, and there's strength, innovation, risk-taking, and greatness in our history that we stand upon. We are here, all be here because of it. And here's some examples. I had struggled to figure out who to put on that slide. But these are some of the ones that really impacted me the most. Of course, it's not comprehensive. I was trying to balance male, female, all these things. And even intersectionality. And if you have not seen My Name is Polly Murray on Prime Video, watch it. That's your first assignment. Watch that. If you don't leave with anything else, watch Reverend Dr. Polly Murray's story, because she was the first and did not get any credit for all the great things she did for civil rights. Yes, she's awesome. She is. So I changed the picture out. Stephanie Mills lost out. You know, I like her because she speaks out. She's brave. But look at that greatness up there. This is all in us. So I want to talk about boiling that down to middle management. Now, we all know there's challenges. Just being in the middle. You're here because you want to know more about that. And so you have leadership telling you what to do. Those goals that you have to meet, the vision, the mission of the organization. And then here you have your peers who are sometimes friends, sometimes foe. You have to keep your eye on them. And then over here is your team. They need you. And if you're like everybody else, you're having struggles with, recruiting the best and brightest, keeping them engaged. And if you have people of multiple generations, oh my goodness. You feel like the Matrix, right? So I'm just acknowledging that those challenges are there. Anybody want to add to what I just said? What other challenges are you facing that you would want to share, other than the ones I've mentioned? Yes, please, and then you.
I would say good morning.
Good morning.
I'd say one of the challenges that I saw as I, stepped into management was dealing with people, of different race that are much older,
Mm-hmm.
literally been in the industry as long as I've been alive.
Yes.
And kind of just that balancing act.
Sure.
As well as managing a team that I used to be a part of.
Oh my goodness.
So kind of dealing with
Ugh.
gift and curse.
It is a gift and a curse.
So I'd like to hear me.
Fantastic. Yes, sir. And then here and here.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is figuring out 2 or 3 steps ahead what you need.
Exactly.
And start preparing so when you get there, you're ready for it.
It's true. It's true. Yes, and then you. You'll be my last comment. So here, and then you. Okay.
In the midst of all that, you're trying to manage in a constantly changing environment.
Again.
The industry,
Yes.
client needs, it's constantly changing.
Oh my goodness. Very much so. Thank you so much for mentioning that. And here.
One of my struggles, I'll keep it to one.
Sure.
Is dealing with people who question credentials. Direct reports, you tell them, oh, by the way, what did, who are you to be telling me what to do?
Exactly.
In essence.
Exactly.
That for me, and then I start my resume in a long version, and I tell them, I'm not bragging, but you asked for it, but it's almost constant.
Exactly. It's like, there you go. Yeah. It is constant.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah. And I'll talk to you more about that. And there was the one last comment here, please.
Resistance to change.
Holding on tight to the old way, right? All those things. So we're going to talk about those things as I go along. And if I don't mention something specific to you, please mention it at the end. I'll try to get to the end so that we can have some conversation rather than me talking at you. So I will say to you that it's interesting that happened in the 80s to me as one of the first Black female engineers in spaces, including Corning Incorporated, which I can talk a lot more about. But they looked at me and said, you are affirmative action in action. You have no right to be here. The only thing that got you here was your Black skin. And they don't know my history. They don't know my credentials. And every project I went on was the same thing. So I'm so sorry to hear that is still going on, but I'm not surprised. And we'll talk about it. Next slide, please. So you take that middle manager struggle and add leading while Black, and the struggle is absolutely real. It was real then, and it's real now. There's the thing over there on the left-hand side is the intersectionality of being who we are. And I wanted to add intersectionality because I think it's really important, especially for women. And if you are a woman that identifies differently than cisgendered, that just layers upon layers. So I want to just acknowledge that racism is still alive and well, as we all know, as this country is struggling as it was back then. And when I went through the African American Museum, I was reminded just where we've come from and how much further we still have to go. So power and control are at large, well and alive. And all these things, like twice as good syndrome, twice as good to get half as much. You've heard that before many, many times. And that creates stress. Then there's the whole thing that if somebody tells you something long enough, even your own greatness, knowing who you are, you can start to see cracks. It's like, I always have this image for microaggressions that's a water drop onto concrete. And you know what, over time, one drop over time creates a dent. And that's real. And I don't want you to ever think that it's not, and to acknowledge it, because I wanted to share with you that you got to take care of yourself. So all these things, self-doubt, stress, trauma, it's real. Next slide, please. But here's what I want you to know. That is the truth. There are going to be some things, some fights that you cannot fight. You can't. I want you to look at this chart, because I want you to see that there are circles of influence that are very important to you, that you need to do to help preserve your strength and your energy to get to the next day and get to the next goal. In the center is what you can control, which is you. That's it. A lot of people think they can control their circumstances, they can control the outcomes. It's not true, it's a farce. You can only control yourself and how you react to whatever's given to you. That's number one. However, number two is, actually let me go to the furthest ring, the red one. So this like a traffic light, green means go, yellow's what is it, caution? And red is stop. In this context, I want you to think about stop with a caveat. Stop and recognize that whatever's in this outer ring, you can't control, and you need to understand it. Do you hear me? You need to understand it because it can help you to decide what kinds of things in this ring can I influence to change through a person, through an action, through a project, whatever. So those are the things that I want to talk about this. Again, the circle in the middle where you need to be concerned with is controlling yourself. That's what you absolutely have control over. The rest is just influence. So let's talk. Next slide. I keep forgetting this is not working. So the things I want to share with you are just the dichotomies for the different ways that we show up in the workplace, especially corporations. I know amongst Black people what I felt and what I experienced myself was comparing. Like, I'm running my race, but I'm looking to the side, I'm looking to the right, to the left, and behind me. Who's here? Because that's the condition that we have. That's the trauma that's generational and passed down. So if you're running a race in track, and I use my son as this example. By the way, I'm married and I have two sons, one's 30 and one's 28. And my husband is Black, therefore my kids, my boys are Black. And there's a whole nother thing about that. That's another topic. But my son ran track for the first time. And very first time in high school. Like high school, he's learned how to run track. Wow, I know, right? So we're out there running, go Chris, go Chris. So he's running. He looks to the left, looks to the right. What do you think he did? Slow down. What else did he do? He didn't stay in his lane. And then they disqualified him. That's the thing I want you to think about here. If you start looking to the left, comparing yourself all around, instead of running your race that you're divinely sought to run, you're going to veer off track. You're going to slow down, and you won't meet your goal. It's a distraction. All that is distracting. The second thing is there is I know you don't believe it because in my mind, I didn't believe, there's enough for everybody. There really is. So the minute I found myself going, well, that person, mentally I was doing that. I had to remember there's enough for everybody, Judy. So have not a scarcity, but an abundance mentality. This is how your mind works. The other thing is competition versus collaboration. Right? Collaboration. Working together, especially the people, when you look around this room, these are the people you want to collaborate with when you can. Now, not everybody. I remember Harriet Tubman has a quote, and I won't get it right, but she talks about how she went about freeing slaves, but there were some slaves that did not envision that they were enslaved. They didn't acknowledge that they were enslaved, so therefore she could not help them. There will be those Black people. And you do what? Do you run backwards to go get them? You keep running and keep it moving and grab the people along the way that you can help, okay? All right, next slide. So I'm going to give you some tips on what to manage. I'm just looking at my time to make sure I manage it well so we can have a chance to talk to each other. I'm going to give you a bunch of these. And by the way, if you really want these, I'll make sure you get them. I really think that it's important for us to engage. So manage self, leverage influence, manage up, and stay connected. Those are the 3 areas. MLMS, get it? You can thank me later. So the first thing I want you to say, because something I talk with a lot of I have my own quote unquote board of directors. As a small business person, I gathered people that I trusted and I knew wanted to see me succeed. So I gathered them up. They're the people that keep me encouraged, but they keep telling me, Judy, you got to validate yourself, because there will be times there will be no one to validate you but you. And you got to do it. Make sure you encourage yourself and keep it going. Next slide. So let's talk about manage self. Here's a list of things you can do. Manage your total health first. And I say that first because you cannot lead anywhere or do anything perfect unless you are whole as much as you can be. So I'm not just talking about your physical strength. I'm talking about your mental health. And as Black people, we don't talk about that. My parents never, therapy, you got your pastor. What's your problem? You got your congregation. It's like, yeah, we know how that works, right? A lot of swirl. Don't ignore your stress, because if it's day, remember that water drop I was talking about? Get help when you need it. Go seek out counseling. There is a book I want you to write down, and I will share it with you if you want to connect with me. There's a book called Unapologetically Black, Managing Black Mental Health. Do you know this one? Read it. It's very, very good. Words have power, especially in your head. You need to keep this locked down tight with the greatness that's already in you. There's so many examples. And I'm sure that if you're looking for examples, talk to the people who know you best. Keep your mind and your thoughts pure around that. Know your worth. That's the main thing. Don't take the first offer. Negotiate. Especially women. We don't ask for that next thing. Find joy and gratitude every day, whatever it is. Even if it's a piece of dark chocolate or not chocolate, whatever. Find some joy. You're going to see me write communications on each of these slides. Manage your communications. Establish clear goals for your team and yourself. The accountability here is key. I think as middle managers, it's hard for us to keep things on track. You have to delegate, and you have to follow up and follow through and hold people accountable for what they're not doing. Yes, please.
And then how do you manage through that when people aren't used to being held accountable?
Wow. Do you have a performance evaluation? Do you have a performance to standard practice? Mm-hmm. Use it. Use it. Get HR involved too. Even if they're crappy, you're going to need them. Because if anything happens, you want to make sure you did the right thing to get that information out to that employee. Do not wait, and do not hesitate, and don't stutter. Stutter somewhere else, not with that employee. Make sense? Okay, thank you. That's tough. It's tough. Refer to the sphere of influence when making your decisions and thinking about things. If you find yourself being negative, go back to that and say, is that something I can control or influence? If it isn't, move on. Keep a written log somehow. Keep track of your wins, because when you go into that performance evaluation, you need to have that chronicle, because no one's doing that for you sometimes. You have to do it for yourself. And when you're feeling most vulnerable, take it out and read it. Just like when I looked at that photo, I was like, wow. Keep those wins. Next slide, please. Leverage influence. Know your organizational culture. Can't say that underscored. There are unwritten rules in your organization. Don't you dare think that there are not. Your job, seekers, is to find out what they are. And if you can't find out directly, find an indirect way to do that. How are the decisions made? Who are the decision makers? How do you get things done without having power? That's that influence circle we're talking about. There are ways people get things done. Watch and learn. And communicate to keep informed. What types of communication styles gain you the best and the most out of what you need? What's least effective? Watch and learn. You've seen people crash and burn. Find out how that happened, what happened. Next slide, please. Manage up. I hate to say it, got to do it. Got to do it. It sucks, but you got to do it. Your manager, I said, maybe. I know that that person's some kind of gatekeeper, that you will need information from them. Relationships matter. You don't have to go to happy hour with them, but you've got to have respect on both sides of the aisle, both sides, to get what you need. And you need their buy-in to get things done. Make their job easier. Don't make it harder. Okay? I'll try to stay here if you guys are, I could walk around. Communication is key. If you don't understand something, the biggest challenge is asking for help. I didn't do it often enough. I'm here because I didn't. My mentors left. My supporters left. They were getting older like me. I was 53, 25 years in with the company. And I looked around and there was no one to help me. When the new regime came in, they knew my skills were sucked. They sucked. They said, we don't believe you can do this. Well, I had 25 years of good performance. It felt like a divorce. A bad divorce. Yes, please.
Many times you're going to have a manager title,
Mm-hmm.
yet you have no one to manage.
Yes.
And you finally get someone who's giving you the tools to manage that, and you're still having to manage up to someone. How do you balance that?
Anybody else can answer that question for sure. Can we do this? Can I get through the rest and we'll hold that? I'm going to go to your question first because I want to involve the whole greatness in this room. Thank you. Ask for clarification. Ask for what you need. You have to ask for what you need. Don't pretend that you can do everything by yourself. You cannot. And I didn't learn that soon enough. Hear what your manager says, but watch their feet. You hear me? They don't always match. Don't always match. And the feet is especially more important than the words, especially when it comes to DEI. Can I just say? Okay, next slide, please. Stay connected. To get through this, you have to we didn't get here except for the fact that we banded together as a people. When you go through that African American museum, you see it throughout. No one was standing alone to make something happen. We did it together. So there's safety in numbers, but keep your circle small and tight. Do you hear me? Don't invite just anybody in. You're too precious for that. And maintain their trust, and confidentiality works both ways. So communicate, and connect. You hear, make the most of it. ELC is a phenomenal organization I knew nothing about and didn't have the opportunity to come to things like this. Get outside your comfort zone. Yeah, it's awkward. Yeah, okay, get over it. Do it anyway. Develop reciprocal relationships. There are people I only hear from when they need something from me. And that's okay. I'll still do it, especially if a person of color, I'll do it. But it's so much better and richer and more fulfilling when there's reciprocity. Even a quick email, a quick article, thought you'd be interested in this. Hey, happy birthday. Glad to see you got that promotion. Just don't be the one that's only knocking when things are really bad. The house is on fire, okay? And then this all takes energy while you're doing your job. So I'm not gonna say it's easy, but you have to do it. You really do. In order for you, if your goal, by the way, be clear about what you want. If your goal is not to climb, do you, boo-boo. Seriously. But if your goal is to climb and do more and to garner things, then you've got to do these things. You know, not all of them. And again, this is a buffet for me. This is what I think, but that's only my story. There's plenty of other ways to do this. It's just an offering of things to pick from and choose from to help you, to support you along your way. Next slide. I leave you with 3 quotes, and they're all really different. You're going to think, this woman is so schizophrenic, but stay with me. Maya Angelou, poet laureate and civil rights activist, said, "We delight," she's author as well, "we delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely do we admit the changes it had to go to achieve that beauty." It's true. Like you look at people and think, oh, they had it easy. They did not. Next one, please. Childish Gambino fans? And I'm all right. He said, being happy is the goal, but greatness is my mission. He wants to leave a legacy. Next slide, please. And then I just saw The Woman King. Oh my, anyway, we'll talk. I just saw it this past week in the theater, And Nanishka said, she said, our ancestors encourage us to rip the doubt from our minds and fight, because she was fighting then. I'm putting in their lead with courage. And that's the best thing I can offer you. Next slide, please. Here's a challenge. I want you to do something. I want you to figure out one thing you're going to do beyond this symposium, whether it's read, do something, help someone. How are you going to help yourself and someone else lead from the middle while Black? Make that choice. And it is a choice. And be clear about what is it that you want. Let's see how much time I have. 9:04, not too bad. I have 10 minutes. And so thank you so much. Next slide. And I'd like to stay connected with you. And questions, please. First, we're going to go to hers, and then I see yours, too. Would you like to rephrase the question again? Yeah, come on. Oh, wait, actually, you know what? I have a mic, too. That would be perfect, wouldn't it? I'm not supposed to go beyond this mic, so can you come here? Oh, you got it? You grabbed it. Thank you so much, Randy. And while we, just for a moment before you all take off, I want to give Tony recognition for being my clicker. Thank you, Tony. All right, please, thank you. Say your name, too, because we want to know who you are. Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful.
My question was, many of us are put in manager positions with no one to manage.
Ah.
So we maintain that for quite some time. When you do finally receive direct reports, you have not received the tools to manage said persons. And you still have to manage up. A lot of times those managing up means not knowing what those expectations are. And it's an ever-changing expectation. So how do you get us there?
Okay, thank you so much. First, before I say what I'm going to say, I'd like to know if anybody else has an offering, because there's greatness in this room, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you, Randy.
I don't need a mic.
You don't need a mic? Okay.
I want to say instincts. You know, because we're all
Actually, you were
people,
first.
we are,
Sorry.
because of what we've done, what we're capable of. Just go back to your instincts. And then you'll find, the answer's not going to be there all the time. You're going to have to find that answer. So use your instincts to find that answer. So I've done that a lot in my career, and that's something that's always worked for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Next, please.
I would say, hi, everybody. I'm Sheila Patterson. I'm with Consato. I would say, get a mentor.
Yes.
Right? I think one of the things that Ms. Rose said is ask for what you need. So they put you in this position. Now they're asking you to have direct reports. Be vulnerable and say out loud to your HR person, to your leader, I'm excited for the opportunity. I want to make sure that I do my best. What are the tools that we have internally? Do you have some learning tools, some management tools that you can take internally? Those types of classes are really good classes. But get yourself a mentor, get someone that you trust, and as you're going through this with your new employees, lean on that person and ask them vulnerably, what do I do next? I'm facing this challenge.
Dee, thank you. Would you pass the mic here? Thank you. Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer White with Darden Restaurants and Dark House. I would say specifically from being a manager of the new team, I would highly recommend this book. It's called 1 Minute Manager Leadership Edition. And it's a quick read. And it really just helps you start to learn how to manage people in the moment. Just like if you're coaching a basketball game or a football game, the coach doesn't wait until the end of the game to give that feedback. They give it in the moment. And that book really helped me as a new manager, even when I had to let someone go, because no one gave me those tools, just like you. So that book really helped me, and I follow it every single time when I get a new person. In regards of managing up, I had to do the same thing, set expectations, and watch what my manager did. And sometimes I had to communicate differently. I had to send them recaps and things like that, because that's how that person worked versus how my other managers worked. And so I had to understand what that was about and just got in front of it. And I always tell people, I'm not going to tell you no. There's always a path to yes when my manager's asking me what to do, but something has got to give, right? So there's a path to yes, and maybe the rest of this is not right now, but I can do that for you, but all of these things will have to wait.
Excellent. Thank you. And I want to give an acknowledgement to the first one too, because you did a great one. Yeah, no, we didn't clap.
I'm the realist.
One more. Ah. You don't need a mic? Okay.
I would tell you, Rosemary, that think about the managers you've worked with in the past that were good managers and steal from them. And then communication is a two-way street, right? With your team, try to understand what their motivation is, right? What they're trying to accomplish, what drives them. Some people are more visual, some people are more, one-on-one. Understand your team and what motivates them, and that will help you lay the foundation. Because what this gentleman up here said up front with regards to your intuition and your instinct, don't ever go away from that.
Yeah.
Don't ever go away from that.
Yeah.
Because your subconscious talking to you, right? You got to listen to that voice. And a lot of times we shut that off.
Yeah.
It's really about you and your style, right? Understanding what people are saying to you and what they want. That's from an HR perspective. That's what I would tell any of my new managers. Listen to your people.
Yeah, one last comment. Oh, sorry, thank you. Actually, we have two last comments, so here and here. So thank you so much. Yes, go ahead. Do you need a mic?
No, I think I'm okay. So, in terms of utilizing that mentorship and things of that nature, because I've had to lean on that, but I then shifted my focus to making sure that I was developing and not allowing them to do it for me. So I made a point to start, when I call for that advice and things of that nature, I don't say, hey, what do I do, A through Z. I say, here's what I think we should do. Here's what I'm thinking as far as the plan, and tell me if I'm off base. Is this what I think? And sometimes they'll go, no, literally don't do anything else, exactly that. Sometimes they'll go, hey, look, man, I think you should change this here or that. And that's been very helpful in making sure that I'm developing and not allowing them to.
Exactly, yes, thank you. Oh, one more here and then here. Do you need a mic? No. Okay, good.
I also work for Connect, but I was put into a new position, opening a new building with a new team with about 60 underneath. What I did immediately was my leader was have a meeting and say, what are the expectations then? What is it that you need me to do? Is it operational, is it financial? What are my expectations? And then after that meeting, I said, okay, for our meeting, these are my goals, my expectations, and so now we're on the same page of what she needs and what is expected of me. And then from there, then I put that down to my manager who wrote me, hey, these are our goals, I'm gonna drive this, but this is what I need this person delegated out, so we're all meeting the same goals for what we need to do as a team.
Exactly. Thank you. Appreciate it. One last, oh my gosh, so many comments. So first and foremost, I want to just pause for a minute. Can we go ahead and get your comment? And I want to pause for a minute, just for a moment. Go ahead.
So for all my mentees, I'll tell them, especially if they've got new direct reports, and this is effective whether you do it managing up or managing down. You got to get awareness on disc profiles, right? Where you stand on the disc profiles, that way you know how you need to be communicated to, and as you understand other types, you're able to adjust your style to meet them at their particular level. So if you do some reading on disc profiles, do an assessment, find out where you are, you sort of pick up the characteristics of both your team as well as your managers. You can put terms in, put things in the terms that they understand. Because if you come to me with a whole lot of fluff, I'm going to get bored and I'm going to ignore you. You need to point and get to it specifically and ask your question at the top and tell me the reasons why you need the help that you're looking for. And some people operate that way, other people don't. But you got to be able to figure that out relatively quickly, especially whether you're managing up or managing down.
Indeed. All right. So thank you. I'm just going to hold. Is there another question that is important to note? So, okay. Can we get a new, really quick, can you do yours? And then question, do you have a question or a comment? Question. Okay, question, last comment.
Okay, so mine was a comment.
Okay. No, you're fine. Yes, I.
Mine was a comment. First of all, I love to see the Marriott flavor. I'm also so what I've learned throughout my years with Marriott, you have to leverage relationships, right? You have to treat people with some sort of integrity, make them feel valued. For your staff is themselves, you have to gain that buy-in, make them feel like they're giving to the team and not just getting directions from you.
Sure.
And going beyond work, right? I'm proud to say that I've developed quite a few first-time, second-time, even third-time managers in my role, and that's something I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So being able to give that directive and share your journey, experience, and sorry. So what I've learned, I'm at the level now where I'm missing that mentor piece, right? I'm not having that person to get me to where I want to be the next level.
Okay.
The senior leadership,
Sure.
the executive on property, not HQ, but being able to guide people up has been my passion. I feel that people feel valuable when you give them that input, that direction, and guidance.
Indeed. Thank you. Appreciate your comment. Now, the only thing I'll add to this is make sure that if you're sending a recap saying, if this is not what we agreed to, please respond by this date and time. Okay? If this is not accurate, please send me any corrections or comments by this date at this time. And be very clear. Like if it's not clear, don't send it. And then I would offer that your mentors and sponsors need to be some of the people in this room. You have like a bunch of people to pick from. I would end the break, and like somebody that you really, resonates with what you're doing, ask them. I found some of the best mentors were people I didn't work immediately that didn't really always know my job. You do not have to have somebody in your field in order for them to be a good mentor, okay? Yes, I think it was here and then here, right? Go ahead.
Good morning.
Oh, let me see. I'm sorry. And if you have to leave, then please do so. We have just enough time for the other two. It's actually at time. So go ahead and take your we'll take your questions really quickly.
Good morning. My name is Lakita, and I'm not going to say I work at Cisco, but I make an impact at Cisco.
Yes.
It was one thing about the wins that you were talking about, and so this is just something to add to the toolbox, so we don't have to
Sure.
spend a lot of time on it. When I sat with my executive sponsor to talk about collecting the wins, he actually said, we always create kudo boards when someone is leaving a company to say, oh, all the amazing things that they did.
Oh, nice.
But what you need to start doing is creating a kudo boards at the beginning of your fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you have a win,
Yes.
send it out to the team that you were making an impact for and allow them to do your kudo boards. And then to your point, at the end or when you're having a rough day, go back and look at your kudo board and look at the impact that you're making at that company. And then when you go to talk about promotions and you're having those career discussions, that's something that you bring up to your leaders. Pull your kudo board up to talk about the impact so that when you have executives sitting in that room that says, who's the person that people go to?
Yes.
You can show the impact that you're making and saying, people come to me, and that's why I need to be in this next level.
Yes. Woo. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Last comment. And if you have to leave, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. Good morning. My name is Kevin with PepsiCo. So
Yeah.
comment and question. Earlier, we talked about how we have to work twice as hard.
Yes. Yes.
And I think at mid-level management, we continue to work for the company.
Mm-hmm.
And we lose that time to work on ourselves.
Yes.
So I applaud you how you said you continued your education in your 30s and 40s. So the question is, can you talk about what signals you saw where you had to stop and continue to pour back into myself?
Yeah.
And work on yourself in that way?
Yeah, good question. And I would say most of my career, which I don't want you all to do, I was passive. I was waiting for somebody to drive me through my career. And I'll be honest with you, that happened until then. It was my mentor who was a black man at the executive level. Let me tell you this. This is important. Black man at the executive level that I met because I was in a crisis. And it was, I had 3 levels up black. It was wonderful. And so he said, gave me advice then. And he saw that I lit up when I was doing training I did training in the company, first time training for supervisory effectiveness. So I helped develop it and then trained it as line unload. I was going to go back into the organization. And he was still there and he said, you lit up. He said, you need to get education to continue in that realm. Otherwise, people aren't going to recognize that experience. He sent me back to Cornell. And when he did that, I was like, oh my gosh, It did resonate then that I need to pour back and educate myself, but I'll be honest with you, it was not my idea, it was his. But I took that advice, and only now can I look back and see where I failed myself, which is why I'm telling you all these things. And now at this position, I want you to hear this. Nothing is wasted that you're going through, absolutely nothing. Those bad experiences and good experiences in education led me to where I am today, and I am so internally, externally grateful for all the experiences I've had because they've taught me something. If you listen and you go back and review it, you learn some incredible stories and information that can help catapult you to the next level. And I want you to just keep at it and then find where you fit and keep growing. But know that even if it's not where you need to be now, find a new something. Don't stay too long. Don't stay too long at a party that is not for you. Okay? All right, thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Okay.